Do you know of these people who you don't have?
Oh,
Okay.
So we're going.
All right. So
I can hunt.
again, welcome to Cyber Hunt Challenge. We talked about real quick. Make sure that you get this information down. This is where the data is. This is also where this slide presentation is. So if you want to actually refer to anything in this presentation, you will be able to do that later. The main thing is that if you get this email down, you can email me. I will be monitoring that. I will be on a plane tomorrow at 6:40, flying back to California, so I probably won't respond to you at that point, but any other time I will be checking that so you can email me with any questions. So we're going to talk about the approach, the data, the rules of the challenge, and some suggestions. But first, about me. So this is me. So before '99, I was a pilot in the military, flying scout helicopters and Cobras. I'm a little older. You can't tell with gray. Scout helicopters and Cobras. Worked at all of those great places. I'm currently at a startup, 1-year-old this month, called Logic Hub. I'm from this area. I went to Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, graduated in 1987. Yes, I'm not old. BS in Computer Science and MS in Computer Science from Hopkins. So I worked here at the Army Research Lab for a long time. That's when I was at Johns Hopkins. I love cycling. Fun fact, I went to France this summer and watched the Tour de France and climbed 10 of the iconic climbs, 300 miles and 50,000 feet, something like that. So that's a fun fact. And I want to be a guitarist. So that's about it. And if anybody wants to talk about cycling afterwards, I'm more than happy to. That's my favorite thing to talk about. This is actually second. So the approach. So I want you guys to get just into kind of a mindset of, I'm giving you data. That's all I'm giving you is data. You have to do something with that data. And what I see too many times is people saying, going the leap from data to I understand something and being able to make an answer. And so there's an approach, there are steps in that. And if I used to teach this, so I used to also mentor reservists. I was an Army reservist after I got off active duty. And so I used to teach analysis to them. And we did this over and over again. And back then I didn't actually know how to say it, but I did this process. And so it's a process where you step through and you get each component. And so we talk about data, and data is a lot of different things. But the main thing is that you don't make a decision on data. And what I see a lot in the space right now is people making decisions on one dimension. They take one thing and they do one little thing to it, and they say, oh, this is something, and I'm going to go and do something about it. I'm going to go and make an alert, and thousands of alerts, and then people get tired, and people turn over, and people don't want to be screen watchers or ticket junkies. So the thing is that you have to go through these stages. And so I'm going to give a quick example. This is one of the pieces of information that you guys actually will actually have in your files. And this is output from the Ethernet interfaces. And what this output basically has in it, name, MAC address, all that kind of stuff. Transmit bytes, receive bytes. Purely data. No one, unless you are Rain Man, if you had all of this, you could not see what was contained in this data. And even worse, and I don't give it to you in this format, but working with the DoD, everybody likes spreadsheets, and I hate spreadsheets. Absolutely. People overuse this technology and think they're actually doing something with it. But again, it's just data. You're going to get it in text format. I'll actually show you that. But it's just data. So to make it information, you have to do something to it. You have to normalize, transform it, do correlations and all that kind of stuff. What I have done for you is I have made the data semi-informational. So all of it is parsed. You're not going to have to go and try to parse it out and figure out what column equals what. It's all parsed. You get it in two formats. One is CSV, so comma separated values, so you know what's in the columns. And then the other one is JSON. Both of them are derived from Splunk data, so it's downloaded from Splunk. Good luck trying to get it back into Splunk. I will actually help you do that. I have that in here, so I will help you do that. But it's not as easy getting it back into Splunk, which is kind of weird. But and there's also it's in JSON, but it's a special JSON, a streaming JSON format, which Splunk produces, which is every line of data is a JSON object. The whole thing is not a JSON object. So if you try to process it with a JSON processor, it's going to say that it's invalid because it's not normal JSON. But it needs to be that way because when you stream stuff out, it has to be atomic. That one line comes out, it has to be atomic. Or if you have a break in it, something happens, then all your data is broken. So that's why it's that way. But I give it to you semi-normalized or normalized, but I don't select any features for you. I don't tell you what everything means. That's all you. But to give you an example of that, turn it into information. And if you guys don't know command line, you don't have to know command line to do this. When I used to teach this stuff, all of my analysts had to do it on the command line first, period. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you couldn't do this, you were not an analyst in my organization. So I was kind of a hard, I'm not going to say it because I'm being recorded, but I was a little hard on people. But when we talk about this feature selection, so in this data, I want to see my RX and my TX, my bytes in, bytes out, right? And this ugly awk statement down here does some math. I don't know if you guys know awk or know how to do math in awk, but that's what that does. But I'm internally correlating. So if I just ran this one, I would get this column here, this data, date, time, and that column. If I just ran this one, I would get this column here, date, time, and that. But what I need is, and because I'm only again correlating pieces up, what I need is both components. And so this ugly one here, and if anybody, it's freely available. You guys can use this if you want to take a look at that data. But what I'm doing here is doing the math to subtract the one column from or the previous line from the next line, and you get this. And you look at it and you say, oh man, I got a lot of bytes here, got a lot of bytes here. Oh, and I got a lot of bytes here, but not that many here. Something's wrong right there, right?
Something is different.
Something is different. That's right. Something is different. But you don't know, right? Knowledge. Question, locate, analyze, organize. You have to go in and say, okay, I think I know something. I can postulate, but I don't know. How do I know it? And so, one of the things I used to hate, or one of the things I hate when people say is visualization. I hate that word. It is an overused word. But in certain circumstances, there is a need for visualization. So this is the receive bytes here, green, receive bytes. This is the transmit bytes. Now, you notice that there's a periodicity to the transmit bytes, right? Periodicity. And that periodicity, when we saw that, just happens to fall on that receive, on when the receive bytes came. So that first line, if you had looked at it just in and of itself, you would have said, oh, that's what I'm going to focus on. but you didn't have all of the information to be able to make that judgment. So sometimes looking at it in a different way helps you with that. So now we look back again and we say, oh, that's a jump. This one might not be as important as this one, but now we know that this is normal. This is the outcome. So thinking about that and going from that one layer to the next layer, but now you still don't necessarily understand what's going on, right? So one of the things, so when I used to run that organization, one of the things was, can you defend? So you're going to evaluate, present, and defend. Can you actually defend what you're telling me? Show me. So when you guys do the Cyber Hunt Challenge, you can tell me all kinds of things, but if you don't show me, you don't get points. You have to actually say, it happened because of this, and I can see it right here. Date, time, etc. So you will have, and again, I'm going to go over the rules in just a second, but I'm just presenting this so that you guys understand the kind of thinking I'm looking for you to process this data. It's actually not, it's mixed, it's intermingled data, right? So you have event type this, event type that, event type. There are probably 16 different event types in this data. You have to, part of your challenge is even pulling those event types apart and isolating those event types, reducing those event types, making sense of those event types, and then correlating those event types with other event types. Now, I don't care what you use. You can use command line. I can do all of this on the command line. You can use Splunk. I will help you to do that. You can use Python. You can use any coding program. I will help you do that. Also, let me see. So the last one was Wisdom. I'm going to get to your comment in just a second. The last one was Wisdom. You know, after doing this over and over again, the senior analyst just knows this stuff. He can look at stuff and then correlate immediately against this stuff and knows it. But it's not always intuitive to those of us who don't do that often. Now, to your, let me see, hold on a second, I had one slide here. So when I teach this, normally we use what I call our Blue Logic VM setup. We've gone to Python. So we have a version of Python on there that actually has all of the pandas libraries, all of the machine learning libraries that you would want to ever have, mostly. Now we use the free version. There's actually a paid for version that gives you more libraries to be able to use. But again, that's just the basics of what you need. R, if you like to pull data apart in R, it's there. Splunk, ELK, syslog-ng, and Terminator I put on there. It's a terminal program. If you use a Mac, you already know how to do this with iTerm, but it allows you to separate your terminal so you can have 4 or more terminals right there and be able to do the same thing across all terminals or do different things in different terminals. So that's that. But anyway, going back to this. So the data sets, I'm being nice. I'm only giving 2. Because there are more than that, but I'm only giving 2. I don't want you guys to burn your entire Saturday out. You know, you got to go and have a drink and relax, and then get up in the morning and start doing this. Right? Some of you are going to probably work through the night. 1 or 2 of you I know are going to work through the night. But it's in JSON and CSV. So remember that one of them CSV. Both data sets are represented CSV and JSON. What I want you to do is find the intrusion, and you have to support your answers. Time, source, relevant descriptions, any correlating data. So if you have some other correlating data, that correlating data has to have the same thing, the time, source, and relevant descriptions. You can't give me one thing. Sorry. Everything here. Oh, you have a question? No.
The JSON and the CSV file, do they contain the same data or two different sets?
Same data. So for data set 1, the JSON and CSV is the same data. The difference is that JSON can't have new lines in it. for the data. So it's I can show you. I'll show you in a second. But it's the same data. It's just kind of format. JSON is a little different than CSV. So, but I'll show you it in just a second. And the last thing, if there is IDS data is not the answer. It is part of the answer. Do not give me an IDS alert and say that that's the answer. No points. Sorry, no points. IDS is a starting point. It is not the end. And so what I'm trying to make you guys do is think about all of the things, the body of data that needs to come together. So the analysis 5 points max. So for data set 1, there are 2 points. 1 point is for the successful exploitation, and one point is for the unsuccessful exploitation. I exploited the box, but it failed. And I want you to tell me which one is successful and which one's unsuccessful. Because guess what? Most of the time, what people will end up doing is showing, because you didn't go far enough in your analysis, you will go and say, oh, well, I see this exploit. The IDS said it was an exploit. I'm going to go and write it up as an incident. And you go and you look, and it failed. That's important, because your box is vulnerable, but because the bad guy did something wrong, he didn't get in. So that changes your response, right? And it changes how much time you actually spend, or how much time people spend on it. The second data set is 3 points. There are three successful actions. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there were 3 successful actions. Email your analysis to me, to Darryl at blueteamtraining.com. And the rules are, the person with the most fines in the least time wins. 5 points today, in the next hour, knocked it out of the park. You should be hired by NSA. Anything else? If you get 5, you probably should still be hired by them. But person B finds 5 in 23 hours versus person 3 finds 4 in 7 hours. Person B wins, because I said 24 hours. So whoever turns in the right answers, the most right answers, 24 hours wins. Due at 8 o'clock. I'm still in the military mentally, so 2000 tomorrow, and I'm on Pacific time. So for me, that's 5 o'clock. So it's all good, but I had to put that in there just to make sure that everybody knew. 2000 EST tomorrow, and I will email out, or the winner will be announced on the 27th. And I might just email it to everybody who the winner is. Does anybody care if I tell everybody who won? Because normally people don't want me to tell everybody who won. Does anybody care? So all of your colleagues will know that you were drop the mic. Just and he is claiming it already. So there's a lot of pressure on this. What's your name?
John.
There's a lot of pressure on John right here. He's claiming that he's going to do the mic drop already. So you got to challenge this guy. Come on.
But I have a question for you. So I just downloaded the sample and put it into the network. I mean, line counts are different with JSON and CSV.
They're going to be. Let me tell you what. They're going to be. But hold on. So I will tell you why in just a second. So that I talked about what I normally use for this. So I'm going to give you guys some hints.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some hints. If you want to process text in Unix, I used to teach Unix a long time ago. But processing text for this, I went back and looked at my training that I started teaching in 2001, 2002. And these commands haven't changed. They're the same commands that you used back then. And if you know these, you can whip through anything in Unix on the command line. I guarantee you can. Now, there's one little extra nice thing that if you want to try it out. this program called CSV Kit. So CSV Kit is this really cool program that allows you to rip through CSVs in a really quick way. A lot of the processing with CSV cut, CSV grep is key there. There's a comment there. This should be a comment, not a period. And then the output analysis. There is a glaring, I don't know how they missed this, but there's a glaring omission in CSV Kit where if you pull out all of the columns, so in the CSV, I have all of the data in this CSV. So some of the columns for some of the data is blank. And so what you don't want to do is deal with those blank columns. Well, CSV Kit doesn't have a way to deal with that, so I wrote something to deal with it. And it's included in your stuff, but you need some extra libraries, and if you install Inthought Canopy, it takes care of those dependencies for you. Again, if you really want to know, you can email me. I provide it as a proof of concept for you to understand that actually being able to code is a good thing as an analyst because it allows you to extend your capability as an analyst. Regex 101, if you guys don't know about that, really cool. Just don't put your company's stuff in the little regex window. Like, obfuscate it, please, because it does get recorded somewhere. So, but it's really cool for doing regex. I used to work with SourceFire back a few years ago, and so I lived in regex because everything that it does is pretty much regex to do intrusion detection. And so this is like really helpful. It actually even tells you the number of steps it takes to do the regular expression, so you can figure out how efficient your regular expression is. So another cool thing. Now Splunk, whole different story. If you want to do this in Splunk, the best way to do it is to import the JSON. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in that JSON there are components that are, and this is to answer your question, in the JSON there are components that are single line and there are components that are multi-line. Those multi-line components, when I actually do it in CSV, I actually broke them down. So one single line component in JSON could be 10,000 CSV lines. That's why it's different in the line count. Yes, the size is different too. Yes.
Inline character is just a character.
Yeah, it's just the character. I'll show you that, or you can actually see it. You may have to do some custom field extractions. I won't actually tell you what syslog. You're not seeing it? Multi-line. So on the ones that come in, so when you import the JSON and it comes in multi-line, in order for you to get it to look right, you actually have to run a rex command to replace the new line with a real new line. And that makes the data look perfect. And then you just pass it to multi-KV, and the multi-KV breaks it out so that the keys on the top, so it'll be like, everybody knows what PS data looks like, where PS has a whole bunch of field names at the top and a whole bunch of data in columns. Well, this is the perfect candidate for that, because when you re-import it, you have to take out the new lines, and then you have to invoke multi-KV. Then multi-KV goes and takes that column header, and it says, this field equals that, this field equals this field equals this, for all of the lines. So that's how you do it in Splunk. Again, if you guys want to do it that way, feel free to ask me. Now, I don't know if I can explain this in the time I have. I'm not going to completely try, but I'm going to give you some hints. So, does anybody here know Splunk? Does anybody administer Splunk? Does anybody know what props and transforms are? Okay, so I got 4 guys, so I expect those 4 to do it in Splunk. So props and transforms are a way for you to manipulate data when you bring it in. In Splunk, so the way the JSON is formatted, it's going to require that you do some stuff because it needs certain fields. So it needs host, source type, and and I also keep raw in there. So in the props, I set it to do these particular transforms. I also move this Postgres file to syslog because I don't like typing this whole thing. So I just move it over to syslog. It has a syslog format anyway. So you need to install this on your Splunk system. I'll let you guys figure out where that's supposed to go. If you don't know, then you probably should just use the CSV and import that somewhere and start to work on that. There also is a way that you can do it in Splunk with the CSV, but again, I will let you guys go wild on it. This is your time to learn. I'm not going to teach you. What I like to do is I like to let people explore first, and then I will teach them all they want to know once they have given it an effort, because it makes it so that you absorb a whole lot more. The transforms, so this goes and this sets the host name, sets the source type, and sets raw. This is all in one file. Once you get that done, once you get those in place, then you just have to sudo to Splunk and run the one-shot command, and wherever your data is, this is the actual name of the data set that you'll have data set 0, you also have data set 1, and you have to import it into some index that exists. So you actually have to create an index that exists. Again, like I said, I'm not going to teach you Splunk here. You actually have questions and you want to use Splunk, you're more than welcome to ask, and I will attempt to keep up with everybody's questions on how to do this. But I also can, at some point, if you guys want to clap, I can actually teach this. But anyway, that's Splunk data ingest. So, again, to wrap up, JSON and CSV data, data set 0, data set 1. Main thing, support your answers, 2000 Eastern Time. Any questions? Darryl@blueteamtraining.com. And for the last time, that is the link. I want everybody to get that.
What's the prize?
Apple Watch this time. So the last time we did this, I was telling a few of the guys, unfortunately we couldn't do it here. It gets expensive. But our last one was a trip for 2 to Hawaii. Okay, so let me tell you how that went, just so everybody understands the level to which we expect you to perform. So we had 16 students in the class. It was a virtual class where I was teaching virtually. By the second day, there were only 8. By the time we actually did the challenge, there were 4. Only one person scored above a passing grade, which was a 70%. Everybody else got a 25% or less. And to give you an idea of what the supposed experience level was, the guys had, some of them said 10 years, some of them said 12 years, some of them said 8 years of experience. The thing is that 8 years of experience, clicking a button, is not the same thing as 8 years of experience taking in the data and doing an investigation. There's a real difference there. And so what I want to get people back to is taking in that data and doing real investigation, doing a grunt work, kind of like the CSI guys do, where they actually have to go and examine this and examine that and use the right tools for the job. If they have to program or if they have to get on the command line to do something. It's becoming a lost art, and I really want to start to re-engage people in doing that, because we're really doing that. I go back to this Army, and I'm in the Army, so but I go back to this commercial. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where there's this hacker that looks like he's typing stuff on some screen, and then it goes blank. And then you see these 2 guys in something that looks like Army Cyber sock, and they bump fists like they just stopped this guy. That doesn't happen. I'm just telling you, that doesn't happen. But sound principles like stepping through and thinking about data information, knowledge, understanding and wisdom, and stepping through that will help. Fist bumps don't happen that often. So, if there are any questions, let me just kind of go through the data real quick. Yes, I use a lot of virtual screens. It was worse when, so now Mac does it horizontally, but before when it was a square, you could get to stuff faster. It's really slow now. So just so that you guys know that it downloads, let me go and paste in the link quick wherever I have this. So I want to do a live test in front of everybody, so we all know that it works. No, I don't want to do all that. Okay. Save it on file. I need to save it to. Download somewhere. So So you have dataset 0.tar and dataset 1.tar. Thanks. On the power. So nobody can tell me that the dataset didn't download and that it didn't untar, because I'm doing it in front of you on the same link. No excuses. No excuses.
So you mentioned something about a virtual machine at one point that had all these tools preloaded.
Yes.
Where does that fit in?
So when I actually teach the class, we use that.
Okay.
We use the virtual that already has some tools loaded, already has Splunk up and configured, all of the stuff that they need to do the one shot to add it in, all of the Python stuff, all of that already on there.
Can we download that?
I don't have it available.
Is that PPTX, the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the presentation. So the PPTX there is Cyber Hunt Challenge. PPTX is the presentation. CSV Rec is the actual Python script that does the little trick to remove columns. It's really simple. Not something I put a lot of time in. I just needed something quick, but it's again an example of coding actually helps you. So please learn to code. Please.
Especially the log files, gigantic.
Yes.
Then running multiple command line codes creates a lot of CPU power now. But Python is only single process that's helps a lot.
So as you can see here, that's the number. That's the last column. So those are all of the columns in the data. And everything down here, you can see like timestamps. You can see some description stuff. This one happens to be a flow log. So, but there's lots of stuff in there. So that's and everybody's seen CSV. I mean, there's nothing magical about that. But let's go to the JSON one. Yeah. So the JSON one, you see starting bracket, the ending bracket, but now look at this one. So let me. So this one is a PS. You see the /ns, the new lines there. So you have to end up, when you import it into Splunk, you end up having to deal with that. So that's where the changing the new lines to real new lines, because you can't have inside of a JSON object, you can't actually have returns as part of the data. So when Splunk exports it and puts the new line in there. So when you re-import it somewhere else, you can deal with that. New line there, new line there, new line there. So that's why they're different number of lines. So if you imported this data into Splunk and then you did the things that I said to do, previously and export it, you would get the exact same CSV file that you have. So you can use CSV, or you can use the JSON.
So JSON, as you can see, every column name is existed on the column, on the row, right? For example, creative repeated multiple times, result, or every column name is JSON as a part of the key, right? So it has to, usually JSON files are much larger than a normal CSV file because CSV, the title is only presented in the first line, then the rest is only the data.
Yeah, but see, so here with the way Splunk, so I didn't do this. The way Splunk generates the JSON is that it takes this as result, and whatever the raw is, it puts that in there. That's it. So that's the difference. So that's why you have to, when you import it back into Splunk, you have to do
I'm not going to use one, but we show that. So that's maybe an interesting example.
So that's hold on a second. So that's it for this session. I am going to be here until 2:30. For anybody who has questions or wants to talk about anything that we're doing here, needs help, wants to go ahead and set up and start working, if you have your systems around already, I'll be more than happy to help you guys out.
Just have a quick question about the, and nothing technical, I'm just saying, if you go back to the Dropbox.
Yeah.
I mean, just the
You want to see the link?
The URL, yeah. I
Yep,
see
yep.
the URL.
Make it big if you can.
Yes. Hold on a second. Hold on, just a second, because this is let me just.
This is individual only? Can't do it.
Yeah, it should be individual only. Now, can I enforce that? No. But you guys will know. I mean, if see, I see these three guys back here. They look like they're a little team.
But there's only one watch.
So you guys are gonna have to flip for it. I got a perfect. Line up some beers and whoever knocks out goes wins.
I'm not.
You're automatically out.
You're going to sell the envelopes, right?
But can I still?
You're going to sell and divide the money.